everyone, and welcome to the Chef's Table series. My name is Carol O'Connor, co-host of this engaging cooking show. Today on the show, we have Chef Denise O'Neill. She is from Eat with Jack O'Neill, a new restaurant opening up in West Roxbury on Center Street. We are here at the Sons of Italy Hall, and she and Joe will be making this delicious dish in front of me. Chicken broccoli gratin with a side salad of kale. Very delicious. So let's go over to Joe and Denise at the Sons of Italy Hall in Roslindale to learn how to make this dish.
Well, welcome to the Chef's Table series. This show was produced by the Chef's Table Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to helping people that need support. And we are supporting people that would love to go to a culinary school. So having said that, we have a terrific chef. And this time, in choosing the chef, we decided, Carol and myself, Carol O'Connor, our co-host, we had to go over to Ireland. And I have never sung before on television, and my voice is incredible, so just bear with me. There's an emerald in the sea that's known as Ireland, and we brought the crown jewel, Denise O'Neill. Thank you.
Thank you.
Denise and her husband came over 4 or 5 months ago, actually, from Ireland.
Yes,
okay. Right. And are you starstruck with me too?
Oh, yeah.
They came over 4 or 5 months ago, and Denise's husband, brother, owns another restaurant in Boston called the Squealing Pig, as well as he has a place in Providence.
In Provincetown, yes.
Right.
Squealing Pig in Provincetown.
Okay, great. So Denise and her husband broke up camp and decided to move to America. So we're really thrilled that they're here. And she has a great foundation, and I thought we were going to have some of those wonderful Irish brown breads, but we didn't have them for tonight. And I know that you're going to be baking them at the new restaurant, which is Eat with Jack O'Neill's.
That's right. That's right.
Right. So, having said all of that, we start the show off by talking about, obviously, what we're going to make. And also, we talk about mise en place, which is a French term and very simply means everything in its place. So Chef Denise has all her mise en place, as you can see here. And Chef, if you wouldn't mind telling us, what are you making? You're making
I'm making a chicken and broccoli gratin. So my mise en place, and this is just for my stock, my chicken stock. And I have organic carrots, chopped onions, celery, which is chopped again, and parsley, peppercorns, bay leaf, salt, and in this case it's chicken breast.
Right. Now let's just talk about, and this term, French term, is mirepoix. And in the mirepoix, I don't care where you go in the world, it's a classic blend. The way I was trained in culinary school, it's 50% onion, 25% carrot, 25% celery. So those are your root vegetables. But in talking to chef, we don't scale those things out, particularly in a fast kitchen. You're getting your stocks ready. But these are the ingredients for a really great stock. Now, chef talked about having chicken. So if you want to make a base stock, all right, just exclude the chicken, all right? Those things, once you make your stock, you can always add, if it was a beef or a chicken or a fish stock or whatever. But for a basic vegetable stock, your mirepoix is the technique. So, chef, let's see now. I noticed you have these other ingredients. You have, this is actually the chicken stock.
That's the chicken stock. once this the chicken has been boiled, I take the chicken out, strain the vegetables, and I keep the stock. And then I reduce it just to give it a stronger flavour, and I use that then when I'm making my white sauce.
Okay, that's great. Now, Chef, we were talking prior to the show, when you start your mirepoix, okay, and particularly if you're adding a chicken or a beef, do you want that water boiling?
No, it's just at a low heat, gently simmering, and just bringing it, let it do slowly.
Right. You know, what we're talking about here is you really don't want a boiling, you want somewhat of a gentle rolling. And what that does is it keeps all the particles from breaking up in your stock, and you wind up getting, if you boil it, you're going to wind up getting a very cloudy, thick, finished stock. So if you notice, Chef brought a prepared chicken stock, and this stock is very clear. There are no particles floating around, and that's because she did this gentle method of boiling. All right, where are we going to start with, Chef?
So we'll start with making our stock.
Okay. Once you put all these ingredients in, how long do you simmer it to get a decent stock?
For chicken, it'll roughly take around 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay.
On a low heat.
All right.
So that's why I did the stock in advance.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and Chef did prepare the stock so that because of the show, you know, we don't have a half hour to stand and watch the water simmering to make the soup stock. So Chef also gave you another great tip. Once her stock was finished, she strained out all the vegetables, all the ingredients, and then let that reduce. In other words, let the steam come out and you get a more concentrated flavor. So keep that in mind. If you go to a restaurant and say, oh my God, this is wonderful, it's because of these steps and these techniques that really build a great flavor. And I can tell, you know how to build a great flavor, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so Chef, why don't we just...
Get this going, so
yeah.
we're putting in our carrots.
Right. And this is all rough chop because it's not like somebody's going to be... You could eat these, okay, but for time and it's just really for the stock.
Celery. Parsley. Some peppercorns. Maybe. And a good pinch of salt.
Oh, great. Is that sea salt you
That's
use?
sea salt.
I thought so. Yeah. Now, sea salt, you know, you've heard me talk about this many, many times. Professional kitchens, you're going to either use kosher salt, or if you're an upscale chef, you may want sea salt. But sea salt tends to be a little bit more expensive, so I'm just kidding the chef here. But what's great about those two items, sea salt and kosher salt, the crystals are much larger than your table salt. So as far as controlling the amount, they're easier to handle. And you've all had table salt, you know it's very thin, it's not easy to work with. The larger crystals make a difference. And I firmly believe it's a much better flavor. And you don't use as much generally.
No, you don't.
So.
My chicken breast as well.
Right. Okay.
I am going to just let that simmer away on low.
Okay. Yeah, and remember, Chef just said it again, simmer. You do not want to boil because you're going to get a very cloudy stock. The flavor will probably be fine, but for presentation, you want a clear stock. And that's the same technique, as I said, if you're making a beef stock, a fish stock, particularly a fish stock, because you're going to get a lot of floating stuff.
That's right, yeah.
You want to just simmer that. So, you're making your stock. So what is the next step in this dish?
So the next step, after this has been done, you strain the vegetables, take the chicken out, strain the vegetables, and you're left with your stock. You put it back in the saucepan and you reduce it to to just concentrate it. And it's probably about half the portion of what it was.
Right. So chef just gave you a tip. Reduce, after you've made your stock, and you take out all the vegetables or meat, whatever is in there, then you want to reduce it on a fairly low heat. You don't have to boil it, because again, if there are any particles, you want them to stay in the bottom of the pan. So, a low, medium type heat would be fine. And reduce whatever you have. If you have a quart, then you have to reduce it, okay, from 32 ounces down to 16 ounces, so half, okay?
Yes.
All right, so our stock is going.
So our stock is going. And so I have the stock here, and then I get my stock with some heavy cream.
Okay, great.
And I'll bring it up to the boil again.
Yeah.
And then I have a roux. Now a roux is equal quantities of flour and butter that has been basically the butter is melted, you add in the flour and you kind of cook it for about 2 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 minutes to get rid of the flour taste.
Yeah. And you want to stir that so it doesn't clump.
Constant.
Right, constant stirring. And, I always talk about when you're using garlic, I say, don't walk away from that pan, because if it burns, it's going to ruin the whole dish. Similar technique with making a roux, you have to keep stirring that. And the objective is, well, depending on what you want to get from the roux, but if you're going to do a white sauce, all you want to do is cook it long enough to get rid of, as chef said, great tip, get rid of that flour taste. I'm not recommending you take a taste of it because it's not going to be the greatest, but once you do it a few times, you'll understand. Now, if you decide you want a darker roux, the darker that gets, you will start experiencing a nuttier flavor. And that's what happens and that technique is fine. It depends on what you're going to use your roux for. But chef gave me a great tip prior to airing. Once you make that roux, okay, again, equal parts butter to equal parts flour, what did you tell me?
I said you just put it in a pan and cover it up, and it'll keep in the fridge for 1 to 2 weeks.
Right.
Maybe longer. And it's just used for any thickening of any gravy or sauce or whatever.
Right. So, if you do make a portion, for instance, this size here, you can just give it a good cover, good seal, plastic wrap, or a container with a good lid, and that'll stay in your refrigerator for a couple of weeks, and maybe 3 weeks, all right? So you can use that again. And we're about efficiency and cost containment, so, from the efficiency side, if you use it like a lot of sauces or thickening, then you have it in a professional kitchen. It's much easier to do it once and then not have to worry about it for a couple of weeks. Okay, so chef, what's next? You have broccoli. So what do we do with the broccoli?
Broccoli. So we blanch our broccoli.
Okay, so we're going to turn this on. And blanching it is a technique, which doesn't mean you're cooking that product all the way through. You just want to get it started, because you'll be finishing this in your gratin.
That's right.
So, okay. Now, do you do that in a separate, or would you throw that in the stock?
No, I'll do it as a separate.
Okay. So we've got our water. It's coming up.
So it's boiling salted water.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned salt. I was going to ask you, do you salt?
Yes.
When you're blanching, you're always putting salt in.
Always putting salt in.
Yeah, and you're really just building flavors.
That's right.
Okay. So why don't we take this, we'll give it a quick blanch, okay?
Okay, so the water has come up to the boil.
Right.
And we literally just put in our broccoli. And it's literally only for a minute to 2 minutes.
Right.
It'll come back up to the boil again. And we just, then you just drain it, and then you put it into, you run it under cold water to stop the cooking process.
Chef just gave you two great tips. On blanching, 2 minutes, again, you do not want to break down the ingredient because it will bake in the oven. And you want, when you eat that food, I call it the bite, you want to be able to have some texture. That's part of the whole eating experience. So all we're doing now is blanching, and Chef just told you, we're not going to do the next step of running it under cold water at this point, but that's a technique used to stop the cooking, okay? So, I'm guessing the way I like to talk, we've been blanching for about a minute here. So, what will we do now?
So we are going to take this out of the water here.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. So a chef is taking this out, okay, you would take this, put it in a colander, and just run it under cold water. And in cooking, I was trained from day one, never use hot water when you're starting a stock or if you're using, a water liquid, because hot water, you don't know what's coming out of your tank, and that's how I was trained. But having said that, Chef, this has not been blanched that long, but I'm sure there is some flavor in that water. I guess if you wanted to make a broccoli and cheese soup, you have some stock there that you could reduce down to get more of an intense flavor with the broccoli.
That's right.
Right. So your stock has been cooking for about a half hour or so, and it smells great. So we can take that off of that burner. What's your next step?
So my next step now is I am going to make a white sauce.
Oh, great.
So I have my stock
Yeah.
that I have made previously.
Right.
I have heavy cream.
Now, in Ireland, we don't call that heavy cream.
No, we don't. We call it double cream.
Double cream. Okay, so.
Just to let people know exactly what they're.
Yeah. All right. So in Ireland, it's double cream. Here we call it heavy cream. Yeah. Brilliant.
And I have my roux.
Okay.
And I really don't know how much I'm going to use until you only just measure it as you go along, basically, how thick your sauce becomes.
Okay. Chef just gave you a great tip. I'm presuming you're going to get your stock in the pan.
Yes.
Okay. And then you're going to add your cream.
Add my cream.
And then once you have those two ingredients simmering, you're going to add your roux.
I'm going to add my roux, whisking.
And whisking it in. And, cooking, it's an artistic form. So you know what your family likes, you know what you like. And so while Chef is giving you some great tips here, it's important to remember that everybody's taste is a little bit different, particularly in the home. In a professional restaurant, you want seamless, consistent, quality flavor. But you can adjust to your liking. And the term is, in your cookbook, TT, to taste. So keep that in mind when you're cooking at home. All right, now, Chef, we have, that's nice and dry. All
Yep.
right, so I'm going to get this flame on for you. Okay.
So I have roughly around a pint of stock.
Excellent.
And I have just over a half a pint of
Okay, great. Wow. All right. Now you bring that up to a simmer, right?
That's right.
Sometimes when you're cooking with a milk product, a cream, if it boils, sometimes you have to watch it. It'll froth up and overflow. I don't know if that could happen with the chicken broth, or what is your experience, Chef?
I hope not.
Okay, good. Well, we can always cut and have you clean up your
Okay.
mess. How's that? One of the things that's great, if you were of Irish descent, like I am, my great-grandparents came here in the late 1800s. So I am Irish descent. My mother's family, my father's family, but I've got to tell you, there are a lot of traits that Irish Americans have, as well as Italian Americans, because that's just part of who we are. Having said that, I owned an Italian bakery for 5 years, and the old Italians would come in and say, "Hey, what is your name? You're the new guy?" "Yes, I'm Giuseppe." "Oh, that's a beautiful." I say, "Yeah, what's your other name?" I say, "Murphy." "Hey, get out of here." But, then you'd always get the zing. What's a 7-course Irish meal? A 6-pack and a baked potato. That's how they talk to us over here, okay? Which is not true. So I'm telling that story. That's a true story. But that I would have a few guys that worked for me that were Italian descent, first generation, and they would like to give me the business. But in Ireland, the cuisine is not what you would expect. And I went to culinary school at Boston University in the Metropolitan College, and there was a fellow who was the director of the school. He was from Ireland. I don't remember his name. He's deceased now. But he wrote a book on Irish cuisine. And the way the world has changed, people move around. Irish cuisine is just not meat and potatoes.
Not anymore.
No. And it's very, I would say, continental. But, you have a lot of infusion. And there's some absolutely great Irish dishes. In our country, we would have corned beef and cabbage. My Irish friends would say, "I wouldn't eat that stuff." They like the Irish bacon. But anyways, there are some really great meals. And I've been to Ireland, unfortunately only once, but I ate some really great restaurants.
That's right,
Yeah. And you were probably the chef, and I didn't even know you were that, right? Okay, so I can see this is starting to come up to a simmer. The liquid, the cream and stock is moving a little bit. So now you're going to do what? You're going to put your roux in?
I'm going to just add a bit of seasoning,
Yeah.
so some salt and pepper.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. No, that's fine. You keep going. I never liked white pepper, okay? I found it a little bit on the bitter side, but maybe I had old product, maybe I bought cheap product and expensive product. But on a white sauce, do you ever use white pepper versus the black? That's the point I want to make.
Yes, you do actually, and it has a stronger flavor actually.
Yeah.
But yes, a lot of people do.
Right, yeah. So if you want to make a classical French style, white pepper, that way there, when people are eating, they're not going to see the black flecks. And it's whatever. I prefer black pepper, so I just use black pepper. And if my guests don't like it, here's your hat. What's your hurry? Okay? So anyways.
So I'm just going to give this a quick whisk, just to blend salt and pepper in, and I'm just waiting for it to come up to simmering.
It's getting pretty close.
Yes. So I'm going to just add in some roux, and in the meantime just be whisking as you go along.
Yeah, and this technique, by the way, keep an eye on it. You have to keep whisking, all right? Do not walk. You could walk away from the stove for a minute or so, but you don't want it to clump, go down to the bottom, stick, burn, and you want to, make sure, just do what chef is doing.
Yeah, you just have to whisk all the time, really, because otherwise it will get lumpy.
Well, in Ireland, there's a few great terms they use. Lovely, brilliant, and I heard when it's incredible, they use savage. Is that true?
In different parts, I think it's a Cork saying, I think, more than anything.
Right, okay. So, anyways, you're doing a brilliant job here, Chef. Of course, you can't see this, but you can see this is actually starting to thicken. And, you know, you do reach a point where it's not thick. So you think you need to keep adding. And I'm, you know, without deference to the chef's ability here, she's done this so many times, she knows what she's doing. But just remember, that will thicken, continue thickening as everything cooks down and that flour grabs all the liquid and the butter. So you don't want to wind up with something that you could stick a spoon in, pull it out of the pan and hit poor Colin. Or have you done that?
Not yet, no, I'm
Oh.
working up to it.
I keep kidding Colin. He's a terrific guy, and it's Denise's husband, so he's here in the audience. I'm just kidding him. Now, Chef is turning this down a little. Why, Chef? You don't want that big
I
flop?
don't want it to come up to the boil.
Right.
Just turned it down to the lowest.
Yeah. You know, in Asian cooking, they use water and cornstarch, another great thickener. What's nice about this, where you're making a gratin, that unsalted butter, I'm presuming you
Yes, it
use,
is.
correct? In professional cooking, baking, unsalted butter, that's going to add another dimension and build those levels of flavor. So I would not recommend cornstarch for this type of dish, but it is a great thickener, as well as arrowroot, and,
That's right.
you know, there are a number of thickeners you can use. Okay.
So I'm just going to let that just sit for a minute while I prepare my broccoli.
Okay. I have a quick question, Chef. Now, I'm just looking, if you don't mind if I use
Sure.
your spoon for a second. I'm going to pick this up, okay? You see that it's sticking to the spoon, all right? Now, this still has enough liquidity, I guess is the best way to say this. At this point, is this a good time, and I'm asking you because I'm not quite sure. I know what I would do. When this is baking, this is going to continue to thicken.
It is.
Okay.
It is.
So is this type of, is that thick enough to put into the pan, or do you want to let that reduce more?
I could let it reduce more, but it is actually thick enough to put into the pan.
Okay.
I won't use all of it.
Right.
It just depends on my size of my pan and so forth.
Right.
But you won't use all of it.
Okay, great. Now, I don't know, I've never frozen a sauce like this. Let's say you use half of this quantity. Could you put it in a container and then let it thaw? Or because it's a heavy cream in the thawing, do you think it would separate?
It would separate in a freezer, I think, once you thaw it out.
Yeah.
But it will keep in the fridge for a few days.
Okay, good.
But in the freezer.
Yeah. All right. So, now, you have your gratin, correct?
I do.
Okay, if you want to start putting this together, I'm going to leave
And
the spoon
I'm going
in
to
there.
just chop up my broccoli a little bit, just into smaller florets.
Okay. I'm going to move that over so everybody can see.
So literally just.
In other words, you don't want people trying to swallow something
Huge
that's
chunks.
bigger than their head.
Exactly.
So you're making it more bite-sized.
More bite size.
I thought that was a great line, swallowing something bigger than you know. Hey, I'm trying. I'm working.
But, I mean, you can just do this with your fingers, you know, at home. I'm just
Yeah.
using, but just to separate your
Right.
florets.
You know, we showed on the last show, and I'm going to mention this now, a really sharp knife is a chef's best friend. But having said that, you don't want to cut yourself, and there are certain techniques. And what I want to point out today is when you set your cutting board in place, you get a towel, a side towel, such as the chef has here, or you could even use a paper towel. Dampen it, and then you put that under that cutting board, and that acts as a brake, so that if you are doing a lot of cutting, that board isn't going to slip, and you wind up cutting your pinky off.
That's right.
Right. Okay.
That's right. So, that's my florets. So we're just going to put the dish together.
There you go.
So So I have my chicken breast that I had just cut up into just bite-sized pieces.
Yeah.
Again. So I'm going to go in here. I have my broccoli.
Yeah. Excellent. Right, chef. Okay.
So here I'm going to add in my sauce. I just want to mix these two up.
Now, if you wanted to add carrots, or parsnips, potato, whatever, right? You could do that.
You can do that, no problem. Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah.
again, that, chef's recipe here, you could add whatever else you would like into this, and it's just up to your taste. If you want to, if you have a big family, you want to stretch that meal, get some spuds, right?
That's it.
Okay.
Why
I'll
not?
get that for you.
So I'm just going to literally pour in my white sauce.
Now, on the sauce, are you just bringing it to the top of the product? Is this what you look
That's
for?
it, yeah. Yeah, not even covering the top.
Right.
It's more probably about 3/4 of the way up.
Okay. Yeah, and remember, because when this is baking, those ingredients, well, not the chicken so much, but the broccoli will shrink down a little bit. That moisture will come out of it. And you don't want to overfill the pan, because when you're baking it and that bubbling inside, you can have one heck of a mess. So, can I ask you a personal question? Does Colin usually clean the oven when you're done with this gratin?
No.
No? No, you have to do it. Okay. All
The
right.
work is never finished.
I hear you. Okay.
So in this bowl here, I literally just have coarse breadcrumbs with melted butter.
Oh, swell.
So like that, it's your dish is really cooked. So this will go on top of this, on top of your broccoli and chicken, and go into the oven, say for approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and it's browning. You're
Right.
literally
making
getting a nice brown,
crust.
because everything is actually cooked in the dish.
Right. Right.
So I'm
Yeah.
just literally going to.
And with the butter and those breadcrumbs, which I think is a great technique, okay, a lot of times they'll say put a dab of butter, around, but chef mix the melted butter so that you're going to get a nice flavor, a nice crust, and some additional flavor, because these are unseasoned.
Well, they are unseasoned, yes. I have a bit of parsley, finely chopped parsley in it as well.
okay.
But yeah, it is. So it's literally, I'm just covering the top.
Right. I have a quick question. Is that panko, or did you make these?
No, it's actually panko.
Okay. So
But
panko,
you could make it
yeah.
with breadcrumbs.
you see a lot more panko being used, the traditional Italian-style breadcrumbs. It's very fine rind. But panko is a Japanese style, and you're finding it in a lot of restaurants. Chefs are using it now because it adheres better. It gives you a nice crispy crust when you're done, and it's about texture.
That's right.
I mean, it's just it's like sea salt versus table salt. These aren't crystals, but at least you're getting, a larger breadcrumb portion. So you really top that right off, which is great.
So you top it right off.
Yeah.
And it goes into a preheated oven
Yeah.
at 350.
Excellent.
So roughly for 30 minutes,
Okay.
40 minutes, just until you get a nice,
Right.
everything obviously is nice and hot and a brown
Yeah.
on top.
Oh, beautiful.
That's basically
And this really looks great, Chef. And just tilt that up a little bit, and you can see. And I got to tell you, all these flavors, especially I'm standing over the sauce and the aromas, and it's just terrific. Now, is this a dish you would serve in the restaurant, or?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And I'm guessing you do a lot of fish, or?
We'll be doing a lot of fish, yes, and the typical Irish meals like stews and
Right, lamb stew.
lamb stew and beef stew.
Okay, Chef, how long you put this in a preheated
So
oven?
preheated oven at 350 Fahrenheit,
Okay,
and it's approximately 30, 40 minutes.
okay.
Just keeping an eye on it. It's-
Right. Everything is cooked, pretty much.
Everything is cooked in it.
So are you just trying
So
to take a look at the sauce and the browning?
And the browning of the
And then it's
breadcrumbs.
heated through?
And it's heated through. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
so
So
if you stick your finger in there, you're gonna come out with just a
Sore
knuckle
thumb.
missing? Oh, okay, good. All right,
it's
all
so,
right,
yeah.
great. This has been great, Chef. We're really thrilled to have you. We look forward to Eat with Jack O'Neill, and I'm not gonna tell the story about where that name came from, but I have heard the story, and I'm sure when Carol does her restaurant interview, she can ask the question, because I think it's kind of a cool little history behind that name. So Chef, I know you have a finished gratin, so why don't we bring that over and we'll put it so that the viewing audience can see it. Why don't I get it for you? You stand there and look beautiful. How's that? This just came out of the oven, so we're very pleased. And you can see I'll tilt it up for you. You can see that with the butter in the mixed melted butter into the breadcrumbs, you get that beautiful golden crust. And I got to tell you, again, you eat with your eyes, you look for the flavor, you look for the ingredients, and this adds that little bit of crunch. So it gives it another dimension. You're so clever. You're so clever, Chef. She's a good sport, honestly. So again, thank you. And we want to thank the members of the Sons of Italy Lodge in Roslindale, Mass. We want to thank Eat with Jack O'Neill, as well as the Squealing Pig, which is located on Huntington Ave in Boston, down near, I believe, the medical center. And we have a lovely chef that we brought over from Ireland, as I said, Chef Denise O'Neill. Thank you for watching the Chef's Table series.
Hi everyone, I'm Carol O'Connor, co-host of the Chef's Table series, and I am here with John Paul Kaminga. He is the wine manager and wine sommelier of Jamaica Plains Blanchard's Wines and Spirits. So today on the show we have a new restaurant. It's called Eat with Jack O'Neill, and we had Chef Denise O'Neill making chicken and broccoli au gratin. So it's an Irish dish, so I gave John Paul the email to tell me which wine will go with this dish. And what did you choose today?
Well, I thought, with a cream sauce like that and broccoli, you probably want a white wine. And kind of a classic pairing for a cream sauce would be a high acid Chardonnay from Burgundy. So we've got a white Burgundy here. It comes from a particular region, Chablis.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't think of Chablis as being Chardonnay, but it is 100% Chardonnay. And it should be interesting to taste because it's got some of the hallmarks of Chardonnay, like people would expect from a California Chardonnay, that sort of buttery, creamy aspect, but it's much higher in acidity, and it's not as oaky as your average California Chardonnay, so it doesn't have that toasty, spicy kind of vanilla thing. But maybe we should try it. And,
yes,
yeah.
and tell me about the Burgundy. Isn't Burgundy usually equals red?
Yeah, well, so in this country especially,
Yes.
when you see the word Burgundy, maybe it's in a catalog for towels or something. It's like, oh, this is Burgundy color. But in fact, Burgundy is the name of a region.
Yeah.
And the color that we know is a red color, but they make, wines that color, that red color, as well as wines that are white in Burgundy. So when you get a white Burgundy, it's usually Chardonnay, and when you get a red Burgundy, it's usually Pinot Noir. And there are some exceptions, but for the most part, 99% of the time, that would be the case.
So let's try. Oh,
Okay.
I learned so much from you.
Yeah.
So this is a white. Oh, another pretty color.
Yeah, it's got that kind of golden kind of straw color. It does almost have a little toasty kind of nose to it, though. I don't think this sees a lot of oak, but it smells like bread, which
Bread?
like that kind of toasty, crusty bread almost, as well as pears and citrus and kind of lilies or something like that.
Ooh. That's nice. Like it lingers in your mouth. It's a nice
it just goes
taste.
on and on. And this is, I think, something that could appeal to domestic Chardonnay drinkers because it's got some of those creamy notes to it. But at the same time, it's so fresh, and that acidity makes the finish just linger forever in your mouth. It's
It
really
is
nice.
definitely fresh.
Yeah.
I like the aroma and I like the taste of it.
Yeah.
So you mentioned it's a white burgundy. So for me, I don't drink that much wine. What does that mean for the average wine drinker?
Well,
Like,
so
what are they going to find?
it means it's Chardonnay
Okay.
as a grape, but then and they'll be using some of the same processes that you'll use in California. So oak aging,
Right, which it
malolactic fermentation, which gives it that creaminess. But then it's a very different region from California. So Burgundy's in the north of France,
Right.
tends to be much, much cooler, much more of a continental climate than many of the coastal areas in California. Not quite as dry as most of California. So you'll end up with grapes with much more acidity and in general, a longer growing season. And so you end up with this more vibrant kind of tart wine than you would from many areas in California. So really, you
interesting.
should expect something like a Chardonnay here.
Yep.
But there's this extra dimension of acidity and minerality, and there's almost like a saline quality to it.
That
'Cause
you
it
wouldn't
is
find in a
from-
regular Chardonnay,
that
right?
you probably wouldn't find in any
Interesting.
Chardonnays
That's good to
outside
know.
of Chablis, because this is from Chablis. Although it says Bourgogne Blanc, it's actually made just outside of the Chablis area. So very, very far north in France. Basically about as far north as you could get in France for growing grapes, aside from Champagne.
Very interesting. Good points. Well, John Paul, thank you. I learned a lot from this white burgundy type
Yeah.
of wine, like the regions and the grapes. So thank you so much.
No problem. My pleasure.
So everyone, this has been this week's wine pairing for Eat with Jack O'Neill's chicken and broccoli gratin. So we'll see you next week for next week's wine pairing.
Hi folks, Steve LaCount, chef owner Chiara Bistro in Westwood with this week's chef's tip. This is a tip that I saw on the web recently. I thought you'd need to share this. This one is not only just simple, but it's so much fun and just to watch, and it's kind of a cool way. So a lot of recipes call for separating eggs or egg yolks, egg whites, whichever you need. And people often will use the two-shell method. They might poke a hole in the yolk and it leaks all over the place. Or they run them through their fingers and then they've got the egg whites and they're kind of grossed out with it. So this is kind of a fun way, and you might even want to have the kids do this. And all it requires is an egg. And I'm going to break the egg on a hard surface like the edge of the cutting board or a stainless steel table. And I'm going to place it on a dish. And all I'm going to use is one of these squeeze bottles that you might have around for ketchup or mustard in your refrigerator or whatever. These are only like $1 a piece in the store, so go ahead and grab an extra clean one and keep it around for this. And what we're trying to do is just make a quick little vacuum. I'm going to squeeze this bottle, kind of let the air out, and then when I release it, it's going to suck that egg right out of the white. So I'm going to place that right over squeeze out and in. And see how simple that is? Squeeze it back out, and I've got a perfect egg yolk, perfectly separated in the dish. It's as easy as that. Have fun with it. Let the kids do it. Let them have some fun with it. That's this week's chef's tip. Thanks for watching.
Hi, I'm Margery Gann. I'm a registered dietitian at Ethos in Jamaica Plain. And for 30 years, as a wife and mother, I've been helping people eat better and healthier. Today, I want to talk a little bit about lentils. Recently, I went to a meeting where lentils and pulses, which is a name for the entire group of crops, were really coming front and center because of their incredible nutritional value. Lentils have about 230 calories per cup, so they're fairly low. High in protein at 18 grams of protein. High in carbohydrate at about 40 grams per cup, and pack a lot of fiber. For a woman, almost the entire amount you need for a day at 16 grams. Great source of copper, folate, and iron, although the iron isn't readily absorbed. And easy to prepare. Unlike dried beans and peas, which need to be soaked for a couple of hours before you cook them in order for them to be tender all the way through, lentils cook in about 20 minutes. Millions of kinds of lentils. These are some common ones that are available. These are black lentils, and they're very small, tender. This is the common brown lentils. This is the one we all know from lentil soup. And these are red lentils, and these are about the quickest cooking. These will cook very, very quickly, and actually, if you're not careful, will get very mushy. Lentils are, as I said, easy cooking and really versatile. There's the typical soup, salads, main dishes, lentil burgers or a vegetarian burger, and they'll pick up the flavor of any spice that you add. So you could add South Asian spices like cumin and get a really tasty, nutritious meal. If you don't want to cook for 20 minutes, we've got another way to buy them. Here, it's lentils in a sauce, ready to go. It's in a pouch. Zip it open, and this package is actually microwavable by itself. Take the top off, open it, put it in the microwave. In about 2 minutes, you've got a healthy, tasty lentil dish. So, lots of alternatives for lentils. A good source of protein, carbohydrate, and fiber. Easy to prepare, inexpensive. Try them. You might find a new taste treat in there. Thank you.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Chef's Table Series restaurant interview. I am here with General Manager Colin O'Neill of Eat with Jack O'Neill, a restaurant located on Center Street in West Roxbury. Colin, thank you so much for being on the show with me today. I'm very excited. So Colin, how did you come up with the name of Eat with Jack O'Neill?
Well, Jack O'Neill is an ancestor of ours.
Oh, really?
With some mystery attached to him.
Love mystery. Tell me.
If we were to believe all of the stories that we hear about him, we might be a little bit unsettled.
Yeah.
But he's a character in the family history, and so Jack O'Neill has become a family name. So that's where the Jack O'Neill came from. And Eat with Jack O'Neill because we're all about food.
Yes, perfect. Yes, because you have another restaurant right in Boston near Brigham Circle, correct?
That's right, the Squealing Pig.
Squealing Pig.
My brother Dermot operates the Squealing Pig in Boston, but also a restaurant in Provincetown of the same name, the Squealing Pig.
Oh, no way. Wow, he's busy.
He is. He's been a busy boy.
Yeah. Now, have you always been in the restaurant industry?
My wife has been in the restaurant industry and catering industry. Mm-hmm. She's the chef in the family. My background is business.
Oh, I see. So those go well together, the cooking and the business.
And with my brother Dermot's input, with his experience in the restaurant industry, particularly here in Boston,
right?
That we see as a big asset.
Yeah, that's important to have all those different support systems. Yeah, your wife made an excellent dish with Joe, on the show, so that was really good.
Right.
Everyone loved the salad.
The kale salad seems to be it is a big hit, and it's been on the menu in the Squealing Pig over the summer and other restaurants, and it's been very popular actually.
Oh, perfect!
It's a really nice dish.
Yeah, exactly.
And a simple dish, and that's what Jack O'Neill will be all about.
Yeah.
Simple ingredients, but well put together and good quality ingredients.
Now tell me about the menu at Eat with Jack O'Neill. What should people expect?
People should expect similar food to the Squealing Pig.
Okay.
So staples like Irish shepherd's pie, but they're shepherd's pies with a twist.
Yep.
We also have a rotisserie oven, which will be imported from France. We're producing very high quality, and it'll be very much about the quality of the ingredients. So the chickens that we sell will be the highest possible quality that we can put our hands on, organic, etc.
Right.
So that's where we're going. Plus flatbreads.
Yeah, you had said that you're going to have a small baking oven.
We will have a baking oven which will produce Irish brown bread, soda bread, but there's various versions, Irish scones, that type of thing.
I love Irish scones. Love them.
So we hope that they'll be a big hit in West Roxbury.
Oh, I'm sure. Oh,
They are a big hit in West Roxbury.
Exactly. Yeah. Now your wife will be the chef, right?
My wife is the chef.
She's gonna be back in the kitchen.
Yes. Well, Joe Murphy has said the shortest book in the English language was the Irish Cookbook, and he was correct once upon a time, but that has changed in recent times. And there is a very strong food movement now in Ireland, and
Yes.
it's based very much around simple ingredients,
Yep.
locally sourced.
Right.
What's fresh at now is
Yep.
what goes on the menu, like the kale salad. So my wife came through the Ballymaloe cookery school in Ireland, which was started 50 years ago by a lady in her farmhouse.
Oh, this is so
A
interesting.
farmer's
yeah.
wife, basically cooking for, just decided she was bored with being, I guess, just a farmer's wife, and she started a restaurant in her kitchen. And it's now the largest cookery school in Ireland. People come from the US and from all over
Wow.
to attend this school. So our chef, Denise, came through that system, and so she'll be hopefully bringing some of these dishes to the people of West Roxbury.
Oh, people will love that because we don't have that in West Roxbury. We have different variations, or almost American with a little bit of influence of Irish cuisine. But what you're describing is something I think a lot of people will welcome in the neighborhood.
Yes, I hope so.
Oh, they will, definitely. So, Colin, thank you so much for being on the restaurant interview segment with me. I really
Thank you,
appreciate
Carol.
it.
It was a pleasure.
Perfect. So everyone, this has been the restaurant interview with Carol O'Connor and General Manager of Eat with Jack O'Neill, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
So in this bowl here, I literally just have coarse breadcrumbs with melted butter.
Swell.
So like that, it's your dish is really cooked. So this will go on top of this, on top of your broccoli and chicken, and go into the oven, say for approximately 30 to 40 minutes, and it's browning.
Right,
Literally
making
getting a
nice
nice brown,
crust.
because everything is actually cooked in the dish.
Right.
So
Yeah. And with the butter and those breadcrumbs, which I think is a great technique, okay, a lot of times
The Chef's Table series is shooting on location in cities and towns across Massachusetts. If you would like to suggest your favorite restaurant or attend a live taping of the show, please visit thechefstableseries.tv. So since the show is about cooking, we decided that we want to help those students who have a passion to cook to help them to get into culinary school. We're looking for students in the 12th grade that are either homeless or do not have the means to pay for college.
Right. And we're trying to figure out the best way to raise money through our nonprofit. And I think at this point it's really important, Cal, that we let our viewing audience know we do not get paid for this. All the people that appear on the show are volunteering their time. And they're people like you and like Carol and I that believe in helping their neighbor because it's all about community. Thank you. I'm Joe, co-host of the Chef's Table series.
I'm Carol O'Connor, co-host.
Thank you for watching.